Hi everybody, how's it going today? Thanks for watching another video. It's Christmas here today, December 25th. Just in our office. I've got a little bit of work to do in here this morning. So it's Monday today. Every Monday's preg check day. So typically every Sunday we'd enter in all of our get all of our breedings up to date, all of our calvings up to date, and then make lists for preg checking here this morning. But I didn't get our heifer breedings up to date yesterday. Usually we breed heifers in the afternoon and they would drop the breeding book off in the office around 5. But since it was Christmas, we went to church at 5. Then supper, presents after that with my wife's family, so didn't get around to doing this last night. So I'm going to do this quick here this morning. Don't really have anything special planned here for today's video. Just going to take you around some of the things here that I do in the morning. We'll go look at some of the calves, go to the heifer barn, check the manure separator, make sure everything is working right, and I do have to check a skid steer that my dad was using, was having some fuel issues yesterday. I put a fuel filter on it yesterday, but still having some issues, so we'll check that out as well here this morning. But that's the plan for today. Merry Christmas to all of you watching. This will be after Christmas by the time you see it, so Happy New Year as well. We'll get going on this here. In our milk house here now, always stop in here a couple times a day just to make sure that there isn't anything that's out of the ordinary here. So, milking into the smaller tank here this morning. Silo was emptied this morning. They hauled 2 loads out of here. Wash is currently going. Looks like the wash actually just finished. So this will be set up here and then be ready for milk again this afternoon. Always just check to make sure that the water valves are in the right spot. No milk leaking anywhere. Everything looks good here this morning. Back behind the holding area here now. I'm going to make my way over to the sand separation building. How you doing, girl? Our late lactation pen here that's just coming back from the parlor. The guy's just cleaning the pen down there, I see. Watch out, girls. Watch out, girls. Got a light flickering over there. Gonna check the separators, check the manure separator, make sure everything's running like it should be. Up by our manure separator now. I've been adjusting the weights here. I was working on that yesterday. As temperatures drop off, we have to back the weights off a little bit. The manure doesn't want to separate quite as easily. So I did that yesterday. Just want to make sure that this is running good here this morning. Looks like it is. You want to have as much weight on there as possible to squeeze as much liquid out as possible. But if you get too much weight on there, the solid manure won't flow out good and it'll start to vibrate. And we don't want that, because then we're going to start ruining the screens and possibly the auger in there. But that seems to be working good here this morning. So I'm just going to leave it where it is here today. It's a little bit later here this morning now. Sun's just starting to come out. We'll check some of the calves here. As you can see, we got a little bit of snow here yesterday morning. Chance of snow here again to, I think, tomorrow. Winter advisory tomorrow. Not supposed to get a lot of snow, but I think maybe some wind is coming along with a little bit of snow. So always like to check the calves in the morning. Make a plan for our calf feeders, because typically after feeding calves, they'll put bedding in our. They take care of the bedding in our hutches, calf barn, close-up calving pens, fresh pen, and then our heifer pens that are on straw, but they don't all need bedding every day. So make a plan in the morning while they're giving milk and pellets and water, and then by the time they're done, then we can give them some work to do for the rest of the day. So always like to check the pellets too. If you guys remember, we're doing a little bit of a trial with our calf starter. So these, what would that be, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the last 6 hutches here. These would be the last calves that are on the new starter. So we've been weighing calves at around 100 days old, and had 2 groups about 30 calves apart. So we had a group of 30 calves that were on this new program, then a group of 30 calves that were on our old program, and then a group of 30 calves that are on the new program, and that's these, the last of these here. And then we'll probably have at least another 30 come through and get weights on those before we make a final decision on whether we're going to change things up or not. But if you remember, we went to we currently feed a 18% calf starter all the way through, from birth all the way through that 100 days until they go into the heifer barn essentially. And what we tried here was a 20% up front calf starter, and then we went to a 18% calf grower pelleted at around I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks of age. Reduced some of the cost, and we're actually hoping to see a little bit of an improvement in gain actually by feeding that higher protein up front. But so far it doesn't really seem to be a big difference in between them, but we need to go through the whole trial before we jump to conclusions here. We'll check some of the calves in the hutches. We did put straw in all these hutches here yesterday, so I'm not suspecting these need any straw. I do typically on occasion, maybe a couple times a week, check the buckets, make sure that the calves have feed in the morning, that the guys are giving them enough feed. Mondays we clean all the feed buckets out, so sometimes they'll try to keep it a little bit lower on Sunday, so that Monday there isn't a whole bunch of feed in the buckets. But in general, you want to make sure that those calves have feed if they want to eat feed. Calves look like they're doing good. These hutches are ready for the next group of calves. It's a little chilly here this morning. Wind's got a little chill to it. Was planning to talk about this here in the next couple weeks as the gates for this project are coming, but might as well talk about it here a little bit today. Oh, a little icy. So we're planning to change things a little bit on how we raise our calves here outside in the hutches. So if you've been following along, our calves go into a calf barn for about 5 weeks or so in individual pens, and then they come out to the hutches after that for another 4 or 5 weeks, up to about 70-80 days old. They're weaned at 65 days, so they're weaned in the hutches essentially, and then they'll go into the group hutches that we just walked by at that age for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, up until around 100 days old, and then they go into our calf barn. So I did a little bit of a trial here. It's been a while now, putting calves in groups in our calf barn to see if we could raise calves in groups once they get a little bit older, feeding milk in groups. Not with an automatic calf feeder, still with buckets, but group them together. We had plans, or have been thinking about building a barn for these calves that are in the hutches. Did look at that pretty closely last winter, but just the cost of that project didn't really make sense for the amount of calves that barn would house, or at least not at this point, especially with where milk prices were over the summer. It was a good decision not to go through with that project. But what I want to do here today, or in the next couple weeks, we ordered some gates for this lean on here. I call it a lean on. It was originally part of the barn, but it's a lean on to what the barn would have normally been. So the plan is to take all these hutches out, and this barn is 248 feet wide. We're gonna make 20 pens. Essentially, we're gonna line up with the building posts. They're 12 feet apart, and then the end bays are a little wider, but be 20 pens. About half of those pens are gonna be calves that are getting milk in groups of 4 or 5. And then the east side of the east half will be weaned calves, also in about groups of 4 or 5. We'll try to keep the groups the same. And then the plan is to get rid of all these hutches that we have. So we're not going to be using any of the group hutches, any of the individual hutches anymore. Going to put all of our calves into these pens once they leave the calf barn. It's going to be a little close on space, but we can keep them in the barn a little bit longer if we need to. Now we move our calves out pretty quickly. So that's kind of the plan. Gates should be coming here in the 1st or 2nd week of January, it sounded like. Kind of a test run for us. This is a lot more affordable than building a brand new barn for these calves, and not really sure yet what I think about group housing, but I'd like to give it a try, and I think if we manage it correctly, we can do a good job at it. It's mainly the first few weeks of life where it really benefits the calves to be in individual pens. The only thing I'm worried about is cross-suckling. That's really the main concern, is cross-suckling, that they're going to be sucking on each other if they're together in pens. But we'll see how it goes. We'll have to try to manage that if we can. The idea is reduce labor, so all these calves are not going to be in hutches anymore. Hutches are a lot of work. They do an awesome job for the calves. It's going to be, we're not trying to raise better calves. I mean, we're trying to raise better calves, but I don't suspect we can do a better job than we are currently with the hutches. They're pretty difficult to beat calf hutches for these calves, but it is a lot of labor. Cleaning them out, bedding them, even feeding calves in them. Now we're going to be able to feed 4 or 5 calves together. One starter trough, one water trough. So that's kind of the idea here, and I've been kind of throwing the idea around a little bit here. A week or 2 ago, decided to pull the trigger last week, and availability for these gates. They're going to be custom made gates because we're trying to make use as much of this space as possible in here. So they're going to be butted up against the barn on that side, and we're going to leave just enough room here to come through with a 4-wheeler and our milk taxi. We did think about bringing the gates all the way to the end of the barn, but we want to make sure we can still, or we want to be able to lower this curtain when it snows in the winter time and still be able to get in here. So as we're working on that project, we'll definitely keep you guys informed. Still have some things to figure out, how we're going to feed the calves milk. Still planning to use buckets, but we'll see how that goes. That's kind of what worries me about cross-suckling, is that we feed calves in buckets, but I would like to keep doing that if we can. So the reason we also want to do this is I want to have this space for feed storage in the future. That was kind of the plan. We are going to save some of the big hutches because we use them for the 4-H kids, and we also use them for our beef cross calves in the summertime. I think we'll save 6 of them, but all the other hutches are going to be sold and tentatively have been sold already. But definitely we'll keep you guys in the loop on that as we start working on that project, and let you know how it goes with the calves. When we did look at that barn, we had it priced by our builder, and it was gonna hold calves for about 250 calves, and they would have been in that barn a little bit longer prior to going into our heifer barn than they are currently. They would have been up to probably 4-ish months or so. But the price tag of that barn was about $800,000, and we just couldn't justify that for 250 calves. Still would like to do something like that in the future, but definitely a want versus a need. We're gonna try this. This is definitely going to be a lot cheaper than that because we've got the barn already, we've got the space, we put some gates up. I did think about ventilation, so with adding more calves in that area, we might have to put some more ventilation. In our calf barn, we have these ventilation tubes up top here, and I did measure that. We do have room for that, just enough room above the overhead doors to run a similar size tube the length of that barn if we need to. And I'm thinking more than likely we will have to do that. But we'll see how it goes here for the rest of winter, and potentially put that tube in next summer if we think we need to do that. But you know, check the rest of the calves here in this barn. So like I said, we can keep the calves a little bit longer in this barn. So we've got this whole quarter of this barn is empty essentially, because we move a quarter out at a time. But usually what we do is once we get to about half on this section, or even a quarter, we'd move that next section out. So we can in theory keep them to about half or even 3/4 prior to moving the next section out. So the idea is we try to keep one of these sections empty for a couple weeks prior to moving the next group of calves in. Try to prevent the spread of disease. But I think even if we go to 3/4 empty, we're still going to get at least a week in between calves. So I think we should be good there if we go that route. If we have to, if we gotta end up with a few weeks where we have a lot more calves than we typically would on the average, I think we can still manage to raise all of our calves comfortably in the spaces we'll have. Youngest calves here at the end. We put bedding in these pens here yesterday also. Do have a couple of red calves. Had one here. No brown Swisses lately, but we had a couple red and whites. Nice calves. I don't think I really have anything else for this video. I'm gonna go talk to my dad. I saw he was here pushing up feed this morning. Ask him about the skid steer, what that's doing exactly, see if I can do anything about it, or if we need to call a dealer in the morning, tomorrow morning. And then make a little bit of a plan for the guys, and the plan is we had Christmas with my wife's family yesterday. A lot of presents for my kids, so they've got a lot of toys to play with here when they wake up this morning. And the plan is to have Christmas with my family here today. Not sure what time, afternoon, mid-afternoon or so, probably evening. So that's what we've got going on today. Don't really have anything else to add to the video, but I want to wish you guys all Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. If any of you have suggestions for future videos, post them down below. I've got some ideas for videos for the rest of winter, but always interested in ideas and knowing what you guys want to see. And if some of you post some things or some ideas and I think it could make a good video, I will likely make a video about that topic. So definitely post some of those down below. Did have a question, had people ask about merchandise. Not sure if it's really worth it to me at this point, but thought I would ask if there is a demand for it, if you guys want some shirts or some hoodies or some I don't know, coffee mugs. We got coffee mugs for our guys for Christmas here with the farm name on them. If anybody's interested in stuff like that, if there's enough interest, maybe we'll look into doing that. Always yeah, appreciate you guys watching and supporting the channel. So if there is an interest, we want to try to make that work. I don't think I had anything else for the video. I appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.